audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to LaFleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Matt Ohayon with you on the Sick Podcast on this Friday evening. What a night for the Canadiens. What a week for the Canadiens, really. Quite the race going on in the East. We're going to touch on all of this in just a second. But first things first, the Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. We're also brought to you by Bittt Tibi beer. Bittt Tibi has launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for those chilly winter days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% alcohol per can. Available in packs of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Bittt Tibi, ultra light, ultra refreshing. The World Cup of Cards returns to Playground from January 22nd to February 2nd with over $900,000 in guarantees spread out over 16 championship ring events. Highlights include a $400,000 guaranteed multi-day main event and the multi-day PG 300 Mega Stack event with $150,000 in guaranteed. The World Cup of Cards at Playground as of January 22nd. Visit playground.ca for details. And finally, we're brought to you by Betway. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is available only for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older, and please play responsibly. So without further ado, let's bring him in. He's usually here on Fridays, and this one's no different. Mr. Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, what's going on?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing also great. I mean, we're watching night after night entertaining hockey. I'm not going to say that the Canadiens are must-see TV just yet, but they're on the right track to being there.
Yeah, I've heard their ratings have doubled over the last month or so, which wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, they're fun to watch, and they go down, and I don't know how many games recently they've given up the first goal. It's quite a few. They've been down by a couple of goals a few times, but this team doesn't give up, and they've just been. Lane Hudson alone is fun to watch. Cole Caulfield, they're a really fun team. Jakob Dobis, I mean, guy's incredible. Another incredible performance last night. 4-0 to start his NHL career. All 4 games on the road. I think we'll finally get a chance to see him at the Bell Center this weekend since they play back-to-back Saturday and Sunday against Toronto and the Rangers. I imagine Dobis will probably start Sunday against the Rangers, a travel day for the Habs today, so we don't know for sure. But, just fun team to watch, and they're a fun team to cover. They're a bunch of fun, young, good guys that are really coming together, and I don't think you or me or anybody else saw this happening a couple of months ago. But I mean, their last 20 games, they're 14-5-1. That's basically a quarter of a season. So this isn't like a little tiny run they've been on. In the last 14 games, they're 11-2-1, and they've outscored the opposition 52-31. So a plus 21 goal differential over that span. So they're getting good goaltending from both goalies. The 3 defense pairings are set, and they're really good. And, they can play Carrier and Goulet against the other team's top line, meaning that Matheson and Lane Hudson don't have to do that role, and they get more offensive zone chances. They got 4 forward lines they can roll, although, the injury to Emil Heineman put a little bit of a wrench in that because Michael Pezzetta, they can't really roll 4 lines with him on the 4th line. But, last night in Dallas, and they're beating really good teams, and they're beating them on the road.
Well, that was the thing. A lot of people were saying once the Canadiens paused for Christmas, I think both their games against the Florida teams were before the new year. And people were looking ahead to the January schedule and saying, oh my God, how are they going to do this? They got 2 games against Dallas. They got the Toronto Maple Leafs coming up. They got all these amazing teams. And it's really been the theme of this. You can't really call it a streak, but let's call it a stretch of games. They bend, but for the most part, they do not break. And last night, to me, that was, the ultra theme of the game was bend but don't break, because the Canadiens, they let up the first goal, as they usually have been doing, but it's not a problem. And then they come back, dominate the rest of the first period. Second period is back and forth for the first, I want to say 7 or so minutes. And then Dallas really took it to him at the second half of that second period. I mean, it was all Dallas. I remember at one point the Canadiens were hemmed in their own zone, and I texted my friends. I said they need a whistle bad, because if they don't get one, they are going to take a penalty or get scored on. And they ended up getting a big save from Jakub Dobas on that play to kill it. And then they finally were able to get off the ice, catch their breath and whatnot. But last night was the ultimate, I think, bend but don't break game from the Montreal Canadiens this season.
And when they do start running around their own end, they don't look as panicked as they did before. Keeping teams to the outside, they're not giving up great scoring chances. And when they do, their 2 goalies are making the saves. And one of the reasons they're falling behind early is that they keep taking bad penalties early in the game. The game in Utah, Pizzetta took a penalty early. I think it was it Doc who took the penalty early, and they had 4 penalties in the first period, gave up the 2 power play goals, and the only reason, one of them was the second after the power play ended. But the only reason they hung in the game is Sam Montembeault played really well. But during that first period, the TV cameras caught David Savard skating in front of his bench after one of the penalties and just blasting his teammates. Mm-hmm. And when you're around David Savard, he's not a guy who raises his voice often. He's sort of a big, quiet guy, but he was really pissed off, and he let his teammates know. And I think that was maybe a bit of a turning point. Marty St. Louis said after the game that he didn't really have to say anything in the locker room. After the first intermission, the players took care of it themselves. And that's the value of having a veteran guy like David Savard on the team. Like he had said, okay, enough's enough. Enough of these lazy penalties. We're on a run here. He's near the end of his career, right? He sees this as an opportunity. He'd love nothing more as a guy who grew up here to get into the playoffs with the Canadiens. We'll see what happens at the trade deadline. But he was really pissed off, and he let them know. And his words carry a lot of weight in that locker room. Not that Nick Suzuki's don't. But when it comes from a veteran like Savard, who's like a father figure on the team, I wrote a column this week. It was like he was pissed off at his kids, and he was chewing them out, and they responded. And Marty St. Louis said he didn't have to say anything, and that's the sign of a team that's really gelling. And as Marty said, he says they're basically coaching themselves in many ways right now. If they make mistakes, they get on each other about it. They don't need the coach to get on them about it. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the continuity they've had with the lines and the defense pairings and the familiarity with each other. Martin's system is clicking more. They made some adjustments in the defensive zone. But just about everything's going right for this team right now. They lost to Chicago, worst team in the league in this stretch also, but they bounced back from that. And they just seem to bounce back from just about everything. And that's a sign of a team that's really good team chemistry, a really good culture they're building. And that's only going to get better moving forward. And there's a lot of reasons for Canadiens fans to be optimistic about the future and be excited about the future. And, after Kent Hughes' midseason news conference, I was asked, is this team going to make the playoffs? I said, I don't think so. I don't think they're ready. They might be close. But I've changed my mind now. I think they're going to get into the playoffs unless they run into injury problems. And knock on wood, they've been really lucky with the injury so far this year. Heineman's a big blow. I imagine they're going to call somebody else up from Laval probably tomorrow for the weekend games. But everything's like the way they're playing now. Why wouldn't they make the playoffs is the way I'm sort of looking at it now. And, Lane Hudson just keeps getting better. He's been, with Mike Matheson, that pairing, some people might have wondered at first putting the 2 offensive guys together. But in the 13 games since they acquired Carrier, Hudson has 2 goals and 12 assists, so 14 points in those 13 games, and he's plus 10. Before the Carrier trade, he was minus 14. So him and Matheson together, they don't need to play against the other team's top line all the time. Carrier and Goulet can do that. They're really playing well together. Two guys who can skate, two guys who can move the puck. Matheson's getting more comfortable playing on his offside. Now he's been doing it for quite a while. And I think they feed off each other. And what a great veteran and a role model for Lane Hutson to learn from, a guy who plays a similar type of style of him, an offensive-minded defenseman. But to Matheson's credit, to what a great teammate he is and a leader he is, he's accepted more of a defensive role now that he's playing with Hudson. Hudson's the one rushing the puck most of the time. Matheson does it once in a while, but he's sort of the guy hanging back more. He lost his spot on the first power play to Lane Hutson. Didn't complain about it. As he said, I'm just here. Whatever it's going to take for this team to win. So that's, you talk about Matheson, you talk about David Savard. They just highlight how important it is to have not just veterans, but good veterans on such a young team.
To me, everything's going super well, but I still get the feeling that things could fall off pretty quickly. And the reason is because, not to be a Debbie Downer on anything, but it's only one reason. It's only one pretty glaring red flag. And you mentioned it. It is the penalties. Yeah. Because last night they took one. It was, again, just a trip in their own zone in the third period.
Sort of lazy penalties, sort of like
that's it.
Sort of sticking their stick in there instead of finishing a check and stuff like that. And that's why it pissed off David Savard. They're not just penalties; they're bad penalties.
That's the thing. So, I'm watching these games, and credit to them. The penalty kill is doing really well. Yep. It was, I think it hit at 100% last night. They killed off 5 or 6 opportunities, but your
goalie is always your best penalty killer too. And that helps. Yeah.
That helps too. But it's, one of those games where you take 5, 6 penalties, you're going to any team. If you're doing this on a consistent basis, you're going to let in 3 of those power play opportunities. So that's something to me that really needs to get cleaned up, because frankly, the team has improved. So a lot of things are easily forgivable. And this is one of them, but there will come a game if they don't clean it up where it will bite them pretty hard, and it'll be a pretty rude awakening for a lot of people.
And I'm sure, Martin St. Louis and his coaching staff have been harping on that with the players, obviously. And maybe that's why David Savard figured it was time for him to speak up. Okay, You're not listening to the coach. He's not message isn't getting through. I'm going to start yelling at you guys over this. It's unacceptable. And that's what leaders do. But you're right. They can't just keep taking so many penalties like this over and over and over. Their PK has been fantastic. I mean, Armia and Evans together are great. Josh Anderson, you wonder now why he wasn't killing penalties earlier with the Canadiens. He did it in Columbus. He's fantastic on the penalty kill. That big body, long reach, the long stick, physical, wins loose puck battles. The PK has been fantastic. And, and Laine scored a goal that even strength. Had that to it also. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's any kind of a letdown this weekend coming back home. But I don't think there will be. I mean, this is, if they can win both of these games back-to-back against the Leafs and the Rangers, that'd be amazing. I think at this point they'd be happy to split the two, just because they've had a really grueling schedule. I mean, they've had a lot of travel since Christmas and on the road a lot, and just sort of get home and take a deep breath. Back-to-back games again, though, Saturday, Sunday. They get the day off Monday. But I think going into this, you obviously want to win every game, but I think if the Canadiens could split these 2 games, they'd be happy.
Yeah, and I think while beating Toronto is always fun for Montrealers, Montreal Canadiens, and Montreal fans, the more important game to win, so to speak, would be the one against the Rangers.
Yeah, they're imploding. That team's
that's one of the teams. That's it. But they're still in the fight. They're still in the fight, and they have the talent. That's something you can never count them out. That's one thing with the Rangers. So, but
Canadians too, you're talking talent. I mean, Kirby Dach's coming along now, right?
Yep.
It's not a one-line team anymore. Cole Caulfield, Slavkovsky's played better the last few games. Cole Caulfield's just been fantastic. Him and Suzuki have been fantastic this season. I mean, Cole Caulfield is almost a point-a-game player now, and Nick Suzuki is. I mean, Caulfield has become, and Marty's talked about this. He said, I'm not going to teach Cole Caulfield how to score goals. He knows how to score goals, but I can make him become a better hockey player, and I can make him become a better player without the puck. And he really has. Like Cole Caulfield, now, you watch him back checking. You watch the smart decisions he makes with the puck. You watch the effort level all over the place, the puck battles he wins. I mean, he's really turning into a 200-foot winger who can score 40 goals. And there's not a lot of guys like that in the NHL. And Suzuki's every year he gets better. It's like there's a little bit. He's every year he's good, and every year he just gets a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And he's still young. And if Slafkovsky can get going a little bit more now, that number one line is great. The fourth line, again, it's gonna be interesting to see who they call up from Laval. I think they have to. I like Michael.
No, for sure. No, you have to.
I love Michael Pezzetta. His teammates love him, but the style of game the Habs are playing now and the speed they're playing at, he just can't keep up. And it's not all his fault. I mean, he was a healthy scratch for 28 consecutive games. I mean, any player, you sit out that long and get thrown back in the lineup, it's going to be tough. And plus he's, I saw someone on Twitter say he's walking a tightrope every time he plays. He's so worried about making a mistake and losing his spot. It's been really difficult for him. And I think two reasons that they didn't call somebody up immediately after the Heineman injury. One, they're on the road. Laval's playing a bunch of games too. But I also think it was a reward to Pezzetta for being such a good teammate and never complaining. And the guys in the room love him. And he's a positive vibe in the room, even when he's not playing. He's a positive vibe sitting in the press box with the other healthy scratch. He doesn't mope. And it might have just been a way for them to say, you deserve to play a couple of games. And we're going to give them to you. He didn't help himself by taking those penalties. But I think a big part of this rebuild with management was treating people right. And there were so many cases where Marc Bergevin didn't treat people right. I mean, Pacioretty and Subban and Markov and Radulov, and the list goes on and on. But since Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes took over, they treat people right. They have tough decisions to make, but they treat people right. Look at the way they handled Jeff Petrie. Caden Primo, they give him every opportunity to prove himself before they give up on him. Justin Barron, the same thing. They treat people well, not just the players, but everybody involved in the organization. And that word gets around the NHL. And it's a kind of team and a kind of organization that guys are going to want to come to now. And there was such a long period there where guys didn't want to come to Montreal. Yes, the taxes are still high here. Yes, the weather's not that great. Yes, there's the language issues, stuff like that. But as Ken Hughes has said from his days as a player agent, guys are happy when they're winning. It doesn't matter where they are. You can be in Florida and the sun's shining, but if you're losing every game, you're going to be miserable. And the Canadiens have really, apart from the results on the ice, off the ice, they've created a franchise where I think the word around the league now with players, these guys talk to each other, they have friends, is this is a good place to play. This is a good place. This team is good. They're going to get better, and they treat people well. And I think anybody in any work environment, that's one of the top things at the top of your list. You just want to be treated well.
Yeah, it's a first-class organization, and you see it across all sports. You could take a look at the NHL. You could take a look. It's mostly, the two sports where this is most apparent in is football and European soccer, and North American soccer too. If you don't have a good owner, it's your team's done. Your team is done. You got no chance whatsoever. You take a look at, you don't have to go very far. Look down the road on the 40 East at the Montreal Impact, or CF Montreal rather. Yeah. They're having an okay off season, but they don't shell out the cash, and the
coach has always won Joey Saputo implosion from getting fired, and
but that's it. So you take a look at the Dallas Cowboys. You have Jerry Jones running a circus show over there. They're never going to do anything. And there's a lot of teams that just bad ownership doesn't. That's how far you're going to go. It starts with ownership, and credit to Jeff Molson, because when he decided to, mutually part ways with Marc Bergevin, he took a step back. He said, I'm probably not the right guy to be making some of these decisions. I'm going to leave this in the hands of Jeff Gorton.
And Molson, a lot of the stuff Bergevin did, he signed off on, right? Like, I'm not having the alumni guys around, and Andre Markov not getting to play 1,000 games with the Canadiens when he was basically begging to come back, and the Canadiens could have used him. It's not like he was useless, and the Canadiens, he would have helped their power play, and he would have helped them. They were struggling on defense. He could have, but Bergevin's ego got in the way. But you're talking about the ownership in that. I saw Troy Aikman on TV the other day who played quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys for 12 years. And the discussion was on how, the vacant head coaching position now in Dallas is a really prized job in the NFL. It's a job guys want. And Aikman disagreed. And he said, it's not, because you got Jerry Jones to deal with, who basically runs the team and should probably just coach it himself since he seems to make all the decisions. And this is Troy Aikman speaking. He said, this isn't a prime job in the NFL coaching the Dallas Cowboys anymore. It's like, it's not a good place to be. And with the Canadiens and Gorton and Hughes are making the Canadiens a good place to be right now.
You want to take a look at hockey,
and the winning. Obviously, winning helps everything, right? But
of course.
But they built that culture of treating people well right from day one, right? Right from day one. That was like one of the things at the top of their list in this rebuild was doing that, building a modern day organization and an organization that treats people well.
And the whole thing is you have to start with a culture, and that's what you bring people in to do. And that's what Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes have done. And Jeff Molson is probably, very excited to come into work every morning now rather than in years past, because there's just a different feeling around the team. We've said this a bunch of times before, but you don't want that culture of losing, because culture of losing bleeds into just a bad team culture, period. But now, so you got to start somewhere. So they said, okay, we got a lot of cleaning up to do. Let's take care of the stuff we could take care of right away. Let's clean up the culture. And that's what they did. And just to back to the point on ownership, you could look at the Canadiens for an example, but they didn't switch ownership groups. So it's kind of that's why I really credit Jeff Molson for a lot of this.
Yeah. He might have had some pressure on him. I mean, he's not the only guy who owns the team. There might have been some pressure on him to take a step back, but either way, he did, right? He realized that they had to do a rebuild, and they realized they had to get other people in hockey operations departments. And he also realized that it wasn't a one-man job. Marc Bergevin, I think one of the biggest mistakes Marc Bergevin made, and I hate to harp on Marc Bergevin, but Serge Savard played a big role in him getting that job. He recommended him for the job. He helped Jeff Molson hire him. And Savard was under the impression that he would be kept around sort of like the Jeff Gorton role, maybe not as hands-on as Jeff Gorton, but just a sounding board for Bergevin, somebody to run things past, because he had no GM experience, right? He had been a scout and director of player personnel in that. And I think it really hurt him, Bergevin, and the Canadiens by not having Savard or somebody like that who's been around. Kent Hughes comes in. He's never been a GM before. He's been a player agent. He knows about negotiating contracts, but he doesn't know all the workings of running a team. And Jeff Gorton does, right? And so it's just somebody. So GM of the Canadiens and just about every sports team, it's too much to be like the GM and the director of hockey operations. It takes two people, and one of those two people should not be the owner of the team.
And that's it. So you take a look at, you want to take another example of just ownership change and kind of turning things around is, sure, they're not in a playoff spot right now, but they're not far. They weren't far off from the Canadiens last year. And that's the Arizona Coyotes, now the Utah Hockey Club. That ownership group was just, it seemed like every year in the Athletics, some nightmare would come out of there, nightmare story would come out of there. And now they change ownership groups and they're 6 points out of a playoff spot.
They got a guy with a ton of money. They got a guy with a ton of money, treating people well, treating players well, making the move from Arizona to Utah as comfortable as possible for people. It's no longer where old bad contracts go to die. It's not like they're taking on Shea Weber's contracts and all these Chris Pronger and all these contracts Arizona would take on to get up to the floor of the salary cap. This guy wants to win and he wants to spend money, and that's a great comparison with what's happening in Montreal. A good owner, a solid owner. Backed up, like he's not involved in hockey operations. It's sort of the guys running the team. Okay, what do you need me to do? What do you need? That's what an owner should be doing. And Vinnick in Tampa is a perfect example of that, right? Really rich guy. Don't know how much he knew about hockey when he bought the Lightning. Julian Brisebois as GM. Before that, it's Steve Yzerman. He's got good people running the team. Matthew Darsh there, and he's basically like, okay, what do you need me to do? They obviously run contracts by him before you give a guy a $50 million contract.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to talk with him about it first, since he's the one writing the checks. But he's basically runs a team. You hire good people as an owner of a team. a rich guy owning a team, you own the team, and then you should hire the best people you think to run the team, and then sit back and watch them do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, again, just culture setting in Montreal has done. Just to shift gears here.
You don't see, like, Jeff Molson, the only time he talks now is at the golf tournament.
Yeah, it's wild. He's completely out of the spotlight now.
He talks at the golf tournament, and that's it. We don't hear from him again until the golf tournament the next year.
So to shift gears a little bit, let's talk about how, what we touched upon it a little bit before, and that this stretch of how the Canadiens are playing. So for them to make the playoffs, I don't think they have to be winning. What are they at over the last 14 games? What is it, a 7-15
2-1? They're not going to keep that pace. They're not going to keep up. The key now is they can't, like, you can lose 2 games in a row, maybe 3, but a 5-game losing streak would be deadly at this point in the season when you get into the second.
But that's it, because of how they started their season. That's just because of how they started. This is actually how they have to play to insert themselves into the mix. Things to look forward to, because the race is just, it's so exciting. Because it's just every team. Last year it was the opposite. No team wanted to make the playoffs in the East. It was like there are 8 teams in the mix, and they're all losing every single game. Nobody wanted to take the bull by the horns. This year, every team is winning. It's crazy. I can't remember the last time. It's the Canadiens were in a race and were kind of scoreboard watching in mid-January. That's kind of something you do come, beginning of March, maybe midway through March, you start scoreboard watching. We're mid-January because Ottawa keeps winning. Boston is teetering on the edge now, but they're starting to string together some wins. And don't look now, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are 3 points clear of a wild card spot.
Yeah,
that's crazy. There's no guarantees anymore. This is just a wild, wild race, and I think it will be to the finish.
I agree. And like, you look at the stretch I have been on wild card rankings before Friday night's games, or wild card standings. Columbus has 50 points. Boston has 49 for the 2 spots, right? Then you've got Ottawa and Montreal with 48. And the Canadiens have 2 games in hand in Boston and 1 game in hand on Columbus. Then Detroit 46, Philadelphia 46, Rangers 45, Pittsburgh 44. And then it drops off, the Islanders with Patrick Roy 41. He hasn't had the turnaround, obviously, they were hoping he would have there. But I mean, even on the nights when the Canadiens don't play, they're, they can either move in or out of a wild card spot. My wife was asking me the other morning, where are the Canadiens now? I said, they're 2 points out. I thought they were only 1 point out. Last night they were 1 point out, but they didn't play. I said, because other teams play. It's so you can rise or fall even if you don't play. So it has been good. A lot of fans don't like the loser point, but it's part of the reason why the standings are so tight, and it's why the NHL keeps it in there. They want these playoff races to continue. But with the Canadiens, there's only the last 20 games they have 1 loser point. 14-5-1. They're winning games. They're winning games outright, and again, 20 games is a quarter of a season. So this isn't a flash in the pan. This isn't the only thing I can see derailing them moving forward. And again, knock on wood, because of all the bad luck they've had with injuries, and Emil Heineman getting hit by a car in Utah. If it was in New York or Boston or even Montreal, okay. But Salt Lake City, you got hit by a car walking on the streets. Freak injury. He had a brace on his right wrist. He was at Brossard the other day, so he broke his wrist or sprained his wrist or whatever. Match was broken, but huge loss. But again, I think one of the most interesting things this weekend is going to see who they call up from Laval, because I'm almost certain they're going to call somebody up.
Oh, they have to, and I
won't announce until Saturday just to save the day of pay on the salary cap. That's why they always announce things the day of the move. But personally, I'd love to see Owen Beck get called up. They have options. You got Joshua Roy down there. You got some other guys down there. But with Owen Beck, I think it'd be a good time to look at him. Renaud Lavoie of Tibi reported last week the Habs are very close to signing Jake Evans, but if they're hemming and hawing a little bit, Owen Beck would be the obvious, at this point, sort of replacement for him. So this might be a chance to see what Owen Beck can do. He's having a really good rookie season in the AHL. Call him up, give him a little taste, see how he responds. But again, they have other options, so it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do.
Yeah, so it's funny because I had this discussion last Saturday with a couple of friends. I was at my cousin's hockey game and talking to some people in the crowd, and we're kind of chit-chatting, and we're saying, man, who's going to be why hasn't Joshua Roy gotten the opportunity? And I think personally, because of how his training camp went and how he looked in the 4 games he had with the Canadiens this season, he kind of came in with the attitude that, the spot was his and it was over with. That's the Canadiens' version of, what they did to Yoel Armia last year in sending him down. They're sending a message to him saying, you're going to work your absolute ass off, because he's leading Laval in points. He's made the all-star team. And yet you don't hear his name in rumblings of, he might get called up. It's not him.
Well, he went into training camp with the job was his to lose, right? It was his job to lose. They expected him. I think management expected him to be on the team. And he didn't take advantage of his opportunity, and he got beat up by Emil Heineman and Kapanen, who took the spots. And Heineman, I mean, his work ethic is Brendan Gallagher-like, apart from all the skills he brings along. But you're right. I mean, was leading Laval in scoring. Another possibility we call up Alex Barré-Boulet, the veteran guy who started the season here. If they want a veteran guy on that 4th line who can sort of more reliable, if they're maybe want to let Owen Beck just keep growing in Laval and keep playing lots of minutes there. And then I guess the other is Jared Davidson, who's been a really pleasant surprise this year in Laval, tied for the team leading goals with 14. But I'd like to see Owen Beck get called up. But it's good. I mean, they have, as I said, they have options. And when was the last time the Canadiens had options and good options?
Yeah,
when it comes to calling up guys from Laval.
Well, and the last time that they could roll out a 4th line that wasn't just playing 7 minutes a night.
And that's why I can't see them. And again, I love Michael Pezzetta, and he gives you everything he has every game. But part of the reason for the success they've had has been the ability to roll 4 lines. And when you can only put Mike Pezzetta 4 minutes a game and you're rotating other guys into that line, it just sort of screws things up. So I'm sure the Canadiens have had lots of discussion about who they think is going to fit in best with Evans and Armia.
And the tough thing about Pezzetta is that you don't want to really say that they're winning in spite of him, but he is his past few performances. It's impossible to ignore. He's been handicapping them.
He's taken bad penalties, and part of that, he didn't play for 28 games. Like his game, he's not in game shape. He's not in game speed. I mean, you sit out that long, get thrown into an NHL game, it stuff's coming at you fast. And I think the penalties he's taken are just a result of not just physically, but mentally, the game's just going too fast. And part of it is he's a 4th line player. He's not a highly skilled player. But another part, he just hasn't played. He's not up there. So it's been it'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward with him. I mean, it's obvious this is his last year of his contract. He doesn't have a future with the Canadiens going beyond this season. He has said earlier, Herb Zurkowski did a story on him and spoke with him. He said he'd rather stay in Montreal than go down to Laval and play. So is it a case of, the Canadiens ask him, do you want to go down and play in Laval? You want to stay here? I think they'll probably just keep him as the extra forward because he's a positive influence on the team. When he's not playing, he's a really upbeat guy, and the guy that he works hard in practice and doesn't mope, doesn't pout. Like I said, he enjoys every day he gets a chance to be in the NHL. But again, I don't think they can afford to keep playing him regularly the way things are going with this team now.
Well, it just has a trickle down effect, right? I mean, you look at the games that he's played. He's played, I think, every single game in January so far. His first game of the new year was in Chicago. Played 5 minutes and 49 seconds, and then it just keeps going.
And that's because Laine got sick, right? I mean, it reached the point that you realize he's not playing again unless somebody's hurt and it's an emergency. And that's what happened. Laine was sick. Heineman gets hurt. I mean, if Heineman had been hurt in Montreal, they probably would have called. I'm thinking they probably would have called up somebody from Laval, jump on the metro or whatever, and jump in your car.
Yeah, it's not very easy to get someone from Laval, Quebec,
to try and fly a guy out. To try and fly a guy out to Utah and throw him into a game. It's not the best situation to throw a guy getting called up into either. So, now they're home back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. And again, I'm pretty sure we're going to see somebody from Laval in the lineup Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's just the right move because the handicapping them is twofold, right? It's, you're playing 3, 4, 5 minutes a night. Everyone else has to pick up the slack. Those minutes have to go somewhere else. So your teammates are getting tired, but also it's really, really costly penalties because as much as it's fun for the Canadiens, the storylines of they keep coming back, you never want to play from behind.
No, and Marty loves that line with Evans and Heineman and Armia. And, I remember asking him, I asked him, I think other guys have asked Marty also, why isn't Heineman getting a chance on the top 6, especially when Doc was really struggling at Slafkovsky? And I said, well, that line is so good that he's with, and like little bits, like he's comfortable in that role right now. You don't want to throw him into the fire too much. But Marty loves that line so much, like he starts a lot of games with them. They're the 4th line, but they're on the ice to start a lot of games because he wants their energy. And Pizzetta's been on the ice to start games and taking penalties. And that's the last thing he can do in that role. The last thing he can do is take a penalty. And he did it 2 games in a row. So again, he definitely didn't help himself. Like if he had come in and played those 2 games and played really well, and Marty thought, yeah, maybe I can sort of roll lines with this guy, but he can't. And he realized that the 2 games. And again,
is actually 3 games in a row. He took one against Washington as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so it's just not been good. It's I thought after the Washington game, you're playing 3 minutes and 5 seconds,
and that's not easy either.
Well, that's it. That I thought they were going to fly someone out to Dallas after that, or Utah, or just fly someone out to Dallas. We'll be there in a couple days, kind of thing. Get yourself in. Get yourself.
Well, that's what I thought originally when he was in the lineup in Utah. I said, okay, they're going to fly somebody to Dallas on Tuesday, and he'll meet them there. Like he'll be there waiting when they arrive from Utah, and he'll play. But again, I think part of that was they figured Pizzetta deserved the chance to play.
Yeah. So
and that'll go. That's going to go a long way in the locker room too, as we were talking before about culture. The guys love Mike Pizzetta. When he took that penalty, or one of the penalties that I tweeted, I said the guys want to kill this penalty as much as any penalty this season. Like they want to kill this for Pizzetta. They know how bad he must feel sitting in there, and they did kill it off the other night. But I think there's a lot that goes into building a winning hockey team and a winning culture. And while you can criticize the move putting Pizzetta in, it's also a positive influence I think it can have moving forward when guys say, yeah, look, they gave him a chance. They gave him a chance. And that's all. And he didn't grab that chance. And that's part of pro sports. And you still need to make tough decisions. As I said, they gave Caden Primo chances. He didn't grab it, down to Laval. Justin Barron, they gave chances, didn't grab it, trade him. So you still have to make difficult decisions when you're running a hockey team, but you can do them without being a jerk, right? And treating people properly.
And it's just to finish up on Pizzetta. The thing that I just found weird is that sure he hasn't played for a while, but after it's kind of an excuse. You could use that excuse against Chicago and then against Colorado. I'll even give him the 3rd game after that. But then, you're on the ice with the team. You're playing every game now. And it just, to me, what was so strange was uncharacteristic, lazy penalties from Mike Pizzetta. That's what I found interesting.
Again, I don't think they were lazy. I think he just couldn't keep up. The interference one he had there was sort of a it was a sort of a bonehead play, and it was a penalty, but he sort of but that's part of his job is to be physical. So I think being out that long, just everything's moving too quick. And I think that's, he's not a lazy hockey player. I think it's more just his timing is off so bad that's why he's been taking those penalties.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see the philosophy because, like you said, are they going to go with a veteran or because it's Emil Heineman out and he was bringing sort of, not that Jake Evans is long in the tooth, but it's, you want to bring someone with that youthful energy into the lineup. So could it be Owen Beck or do you want the more reliable veteran in Barre Boulet? It's going to be interesting, that player, you could say, oh, it's just a call up, whatever. It's not just a call up anymore. A 4th line call up is it's a big part of the team.
It's 3 to 4 weeks. And again, why I think Beck, because they know what Barry Boulay can do. They know they've seen what Joshua Watt can do. And maybe now it's a chance to give Owen Beck a shot to see what he can do. And he's going to be – he could be a key player for this team moving forward in the future, right? And now they have an opportunity to take a look at him now and see. And if they call him up and he plays 2-3 games and he's not ready or he doesn't look there, send him down and call someone else up.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's just because it wasn't going to work with Owen Beck. This is a hypothetical situation, obviously. We're running with this train of thought. If it wasn't going to work with Owen Beck, he's still young. It's not what it used to be of, you call a guy up, an offensive skilled player, gifted player in the AHL, stick him on the fourth line for 6 minutes a night. He had one shot on goal, and okay, we'll see you again in 3 months from now when another player goes down with injury. It's not going to be like that.
The question with him is he's a centerman, right? And on that line, like, is he going to be comfortable playing the wing with Evans? You're not going to move Evans. Like, that's the thing that factors into it also. You got a guy who's a centerman. I'm not sure how comfortable Owen Beck is playing on the wing. So that would be a change for him too. So maybe that sort of leans to bringing up Barry Boulay instead.
So yeah, that again, because we're talking so much, for those that are wondering, we're talking so much about this move, because this potential move, because like we've been saying for the past, I don't know, month since this stretch has started, this team rolls 4 lines. Therefore, before all 4 lines were going, and it was just, quote unquote, Nick Suzuki and the first line of Nick Suzuki. It was really the first duo of Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. It was the fourth line that was providing most, if not all, the secondary scoring for this team. And then Kirby Dach got going, and then Patrick Laine came back from the flu, and then now Alex Newhook, who we haven't talked about, has been being rewarded for his good work out there, as Martin St. Louis sung his praises post game yesterday.
Yeah, and Joshua was a natural winger, so that plays into his favor, right? If he's coming in on that fourth line, he'll obviously have something to he realizes he blew his chance at training camp. Dobis, when they were talking to him after the game last night, was saying, when I was in Laval, I kept thinking about, I want to be there. I want to be in Montreal. And Joshua was thinking the exact same thing right now. Right. So, so there's again, options. The Canadiens have options when it comes to calling up players, which is huge. That means they have some depth in the organization.
So we haven't talked about, we've spoken about them briefly. Let's go get into it now about the goaltending situation. I think it's just, this is the perfect storm for the Canadiens for just playing the way they are, because yes, Yoel Armia and Juraj Slavkovsky were probably the 2 best forwards on the ice last night for the Montreal Canadiens.
Armia had 8 hits.
He was a monster when his stick broke. 4 of his hits came on that shift. It seems like he was an absolute beast. And and you know what? Just before we get into the goaltending, I'm of the thought process. It's a very non-traditional thought process. Is of, you break your stick, just get the hell to the bench.
I agree.
Get the hell to the bench. Don't. What are you trying to kick a puck and you're a pylon out there? Yoel Armia completely threw that theory out the window last night. Just I think that was the best shift I've ever seen him play, and that was the best game I've ever seen him play as a member of the Canadiens.
He's such a big, strong guy. Like, when you see him, in regular clothes, he's a big dude, and he's one of the big knocks, and one of the most frustrating things about him, he didn't use his size, right? He didn't finish checks. He's 6'3" and 220 pounds or whatever, and he played like he was 5'11" and 175 pounds. But, as you mentioned, that getting sent to Laval was a turning point in his career. And I remember after they sent him to Laval, Marty St. Louis said, Armia has to realize that your life in the NHL is really short and your life after the NHL is really long. So you better make the most of every chance you have in the NHL. And that message obviously rang a bell with the old Armia, because we're seeing the player now that Marc Bergevin wanted to see or thought he would see when he gave him that contract, right? I mean, he's this
is the player we saw in the playoffs.
Player. And now, it used to be, oh God, just take whatever you can, take whatever you can get for Armia at the trade deadline, just get rid of him. Now, what will it take to give him up? You know, like it's like with him and Evans, the way they play together, like, do you even start thinking about maybe re-signing him? You know, and that's another nice situation to be in, another options to have. But yeah, he was a beast last night. And as you said, without his stick, it was pretty cool to watch.
Oh my God. I mean, I forget who the defenseman was. It may have been Thomas Harley. Just bowled over him. And I was, I'm watching this. I go, whoa, where did that come from? And then he does it again. It was just unbelievable to watch. And then he kicked the puck. He was the one who got the puck out of the zone with his skate. It was really unbelievable. Anyways, so, Juraj Slafkovsky and Yoel Armia, best two players on the ice last night. Best two forwards on the ice last night, but the best skater on the ice, I think it's not even debatable, was Jakub Dobis. I thought he was unbelievable again, just unshakable by pressure. Like I mentioned off the top, that second half of that second period even bled into the beginning of the third period, where the Canadiens, until they really found their foot, Dallas dominated that game, and he made some unbelievable saves in that stretch of play. Really, and I remember texting my buddies saying, Dobes really deserves this one. And then the Canadiens took a penalty, and I said, oh no, here it comes. It's going to fall apart. It's going to catch up to them. This is where it's going to happen. And it just didn't, because he's backstopping them. I find they play the same way that they play in front of Montembeault, and then they do in front of with Dobes behind them. And that is a huge credit, because you can have, Caden Primo could have been playing otherworldly out of his mind, but you still play a little bit differently when your guy isn't back there.
Well, especially the way Primo had struggled. I mean, when they put him in nets, the players were like, oh,
yeah,
okay, maybe we'll win tonight. Whereas now with both goalies, I think, we got a really good chance to win tonight. And the thing with Dobes, apart from his size, I mean, he's so big in the net. Just mentally so calm, cool, and collected. And I wrote a column last week. I spoke with Pete Fry, his mental performance coach. And he was saying that when Dobes was with Laval last season, it was Marco Marciano, the Laval goalie coach, who suggested he should work with Pete Fry. And at first, Dobes didn't want to do it. Like, he wasn't interested. And Marciano sort of had to coax him into, so at least go once. Go once and see what it's like. And Dobes said it was a real eye-opener for him. He says, I didn't want to tinker with what had got me here. Like, what I was doing at Ohio State got me drafted and got me here. You don't want to change too much. But when he started talking with Pete Fry, and he just, he got him focusing. Fry's whole thing is it's only two things a goalie should be focusing on. It's the play and the puck. Follow the play, follow the puck. Nothing else. You shouldn't worry. He doesn't want his goalies to look at the clock. He doesn't want his goalies, he doesn't even go to the bench during TV timeouts. Just the only two things that might be a distraction. And his mental game is just so strong. And to be a goalie in the NHL, especially in Montreal, if you're not mentally strong, you're not going to be there. And both Marciano and Fry, working with him in Laval last season, said, we're not working on you to be better here. We're working on you to be great when you go to the Canadiens, to not just go there and try and be good. You're going to go there and you're going to be great. And Fry says, if you don't envision yourself, he wants his goalies to envision themselves for every game they're going to be the first star. I'm going to be the first star. He also preaches to his goalies, when the Canadiens have the puck, turn it over, turn it over, turn it over. He wants the goalies in their mind to be wanting his team to turn it over, because that keeps you focused. Yeah. And he says, you'll notice a lot of times with the goalie, when there is a turnover, an unexpected turnover, they get caught almost half asleep and the puck's in the back of the net. So all these things, apart from the natural ability and the size and everything else, his mental game is just so strong. And when I watch him now after talking with Pete Fry, I always have that sort of in the back of my head, just how focused he is on nothing matters except the puck and the play. And, he doesn't, as I said, he doesn't want him looking at the clock. He doesn't like it that goalies bang their stick on the ice to let their teammates know when a penalty's ending, because that means they got to look at the clock. And so what a start. Other goalies have had great starts. For Wayne Thomas, who I remember from when I was a kid, was 7-0 in his first 7 starts. Remember Steve Penny from Heaven? He was amazing when he first came up.
There was a goalie.
Ken Dryden won his first 6 starts, I think it was, when he came up, and he went on, and and there's parts of Dobis that remind me of Dryden just because the size. I mean, they're so tall. Dobis goes down on his knees, and the crossbar is at his shoulders. Like, where are you going to shoot? But yeah, I mean, I think in this, and I think the mental game was a big reason why Primo didn't succeed in Montreal. Just mentally, he couldn't handle. He's when things started going bad, he went off the rails, and everything sort of fell apart for him.
But you know what? It's like you said earlier in the show. The Canadiens did right by him. They gave him every opportunity. Every opportunity. They didn't just 2-3 bad performances and it's over. See you, and Laval will never see you again. They gave him his fair shot. Yeah, and
he's played well in Laval since he went down.
Yeah, there you go. So
the pressure Laval isn't the same as the pressure here, right?
Exactly. You're getting a foot.
Playing at Place Bell is not the same pressure as playing at the Bell Center.
You're still getting 12,000 fans that are looking for a show.
Yeah, it's
full house.
I was going to take my son to one of the games coming up, and I was looking for a ticket, and they're sold. There's not a lot of tickets left for over the next 5-6 games. You look, there's like 1 seat here, 1 seat there. Not a lot of tickets left. There are a lot of tickets left for the Four Nations face-off tournament, though.
Yes, there are, which kind of makes me feel a little dumb that my friends and I bought, so far in advance. We're going to see Canada, Sweden, and there's just it just goes to the NHL. It's going to be we haven't done this in a while, Stu. We haven't crapped all over the NHL's marketing in a while. It was about time. It just starts with forget the Four Nations. Stu, did you know that on December 31st the Winter Classic was being played? Did you even know? I had no idea.
I know because I was flipping channels looking for college football, and it was on, and it's like the novelty of that is just like, I mean, I covered the Winter Classic when the Canadiens played the Bruins in Boston at the Patriot Stadium, and it was one of the coolest events I've ever covered. Like, when you're there live, it's really cool. Like, you're outside, and the views are terrible from the stands. Like, and the press box, you're in the football press box, you need binoculars to see what was happening on the ice. But as an event, it was pretty cool. But they've just overdone it. And it's the same team. Chicago's played how many times now? Wrigley Field, and the novelty really has worn off. And this thing about all these young kids going back to their roots, playing on the outdoor rink. Most of these kids playing the NHL today probably never skated on an outdoor rink in their life. They're in summer camps, and they're in this, and they're not playing. They're not shinny on the outdoor rink all day. But yeah, and with the Four Nations face-off, it's sort of like, it's almost like a bogus tournament in my opinion. In a lot of ways,
it's 4 teams.
Russia's not there for obvious reasons, and it's like, yay, we won the Four Nations face-off. It's not like we won the Olympic gold medal, right? And the ticket price, the same when they had the World Junior Tournament in Montreal. They had problems selling the tickets. They were just overpriced. They were just overpriced, and I know even friends of mine were offered free tickets from people to go, and they didn't go because even if you get free tickets, you're paying $15 for a beer and $6 for a hot dog and whatever else. I'll just stay home and watch the game on TV. But I know on the TSN Hockey Insiders last night in the intermission of the Canadiens game, they were talking about how ticket sales are not going well, and I'm really not that surprised. And even the Canadiens are really fortunate that they don't have a lot. It's what might be the best thing that happened to them is Suzuki not making Team Canada. Caulfield not making Team USA. They're going to go sit on a beach for a week and a half or whatever and relax and be fired up to come back. And if Suzuki was playing for Team Canada, Canadiens management, Canadiens fans, how hard do you really want him going in this tournament? Do you want him blocking shots and risking injuries for a tournament and then come back? And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the level of play is in that tournament. I mean, hockey players are hockey players, so I think they'll get amped up a bit once.
Yeah, they'll play hard.
They'll play hard, but I mean, I'm sure the GMs and owners of teams are going to be watching with one hand over one eye, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt. And some of the best teams have the most players there, right, and the most to lose from this. So again, it's one of those things. I think they've outpriced it. They haven't marketed it great, and in a lot of ways, to me, it's sort of it's to replace the All-Star game, which had become a really bogus event. And once the tournament gets going, maybe I'll change my mind a bit and think, if the competition level is there, and maybe that'll get ticket sales going more. But I think a lot of fans are just happy to say, I'll sit and watch it on TV.
Well, I don't know how you could call it a best on best international tournament. Like you mentioned, Russia's not there.
Yeah.
Slovakia's not there.
Yeah.
Czech Republic's not there. Czech Republic what did they just come a silver medal in the World Juniors or bronze medal?
An exhibition tournament. To me, it's an exhibition tournament. It really is.
So I'm sure the level of play is going to be entertaining. People are going to watch it.
It'll be better than the All-Star game. I guarantee you it'll be better than the All-Star
That
game.
is a guarantee. It will be better than the All-Star game, so that'll be okay, but it's such an expensive sport as it is. You're not getting people.
I mean, it's a cash grab. I mean, it's exactly what it is. The NHL is looking to make money off it. The Players Association is looking to make money off it. It's a cash grab. That's exactly what it is. That's why they're interrupting the season for 2 weeks or whatever it is to play this, is to make money. And fans are speaking with their wallets and saying, no, I'll take a pass on this.
Yeah, and it's a shame because, they just keep changing the names of these things. What was it when it was in 2016? It was my first year in university, I think. There was the World Cup of Hockey. They brought that back, and then there was, people were kind of crapping all over Team Europe and Team North America. But at the same time, once it got started. Is good hockey, it's worth watching. It was better than watching preseason games, that's for sure.
And better than the All-Star game. It's the replacement for the All-Star game this year. So thankfully we don't need it. As I say, thankfully we don't have to watch another All-Star game, but I haven't watched an All-Star game in quite a few years.
You and me both. So we'll just fans out there, to our listeners, viewers, and however else you consume this podcast, don't be surprised if you see a massive push across TSN, RDS, TVA, Sportsnet about just shoving this tournament down your throats. And it's just hilarious because I don't really see anyone traveling for this thing.
No, and again, the best thing that happened to the Canadiens, I think, is that their key players, Montembeault is playing, and Army is playing, and Laine is playing. And imagine if Laine gets hurt in this tournament.
Oof.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Jeff Molson and Kent Hughes and Gorton will be watching those games,
Exactly. And, it kind of softens the blow if it's the Olympics, I think, because, players, they want to be there.
An Olympic gold medal means something, right? Like forever.
Of course. It's
you're an Olympic champion stage. Or silver medals or bronze medalist forever. You'll be showing your grandkids your medal, your great-grandkids. It'll be handed down. The medal for the Four Nations face-off. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. This is we won this. This is what
what's this medal? What was this medal? Yeah.
It reminds me kind of this is going to resonate really with our younger listeners and viewers, is when you play FIFA on Xbox and you start a career mode as the manager of whatever soccer team, you get invited to a preseason tournament. Like you'll start a season with CF Montreal and you'll be in a tournament with Manchester United and Chelsea and Real Madrid. And then, doesn't really mean much because it's a preseason tournament. And this just feels like a mid-season preseason tournament.
Oh, it's like that NBA Cup or whatever they call it in basketball. Yeah. In season tournament.
See, that was actually done a little differently because those games count against the standings.
Yes. And they make the regular season games at that point when people are like, the playoffs.
When you're in the dog days,
it makes them more interesting, right? So and we're comparing marketing from the NHL to marketing to the NBA. The NHL make it a little in-season tournament. To me, that's a better idea as far as, but that doesn't bring in any extra money really, right? Unless you get more TV viewers or whatever. You're already playing those games, right? It's not added hockey revenue, and the owners obviously want that, and the players want that because that drives up the salary cap and means they can make more money. So this is, the Four Nations face-off. You could call it the Four Nations money grab, which is basically what it is.
Sure. And the NHL, man, they got a golden opportunity because it's in all the sports headlines these days that NBA viewership is way down as compared to previous years. So, the NFL, they're making their push, they're trying to drive people towards them and it's working. And the NHL just,
Yeah, well, the NBA, I mean, that load management thing is not I'm sure is hurting them big time. You know, you and I pay $500 each to go watch the Lakers play, and LeBron's not playing tonight. It's one of his load management days off. Oh yeah, well, where's my refund? You know?
Exactly.
That's what Yeah.
Anyways, Stu, we're gonna get you out of here because you got 2 games to do your homework.
Yeah, it's gonna be a busy weekend.
2 games at the Bell Center. Very rare, the Sunday night game at the Bell Center. But
and I'm actually playing a game tomorrow morning also. I'm in that Dorval Old Timers tournament, so it's going to be a real good weekend.
So it's just hockey, all gas, no breaks for Stu Cowan, and for most Montreal Canadiens fans too, I'm sure. Yeah. Stu, thank you very much for joining me, and enjoy your weekend, and enjoy all of the jam-packed weekend full of hockey.
It's being a lot of fun. Have a good weekend.
That was Stu Cowan. I'm Matt Ohayon. We'll catch you next time.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.